In this video, we are going to be installing an American-made short throw shifter by Creative Steel, which applies to all 2004 through 2007 CTS Vs. Let's pop open the box, see what comes in the kit, and then we'll dive into the step-by-step install. Prior to ordering my shifter online, I hopped on the phone and spoke with the folks at Creative Steel. They let me know that there's actually a lot of options when you order this shifter. If you just want the shifter itself, which I'm showing right now, that's fine, and it's adjustable for both height and throw. But there are also additional things you can order, which we'll talk about in a second. Heck, this thing even comes with tools. Super cool. For this shifter, you have the option to get additional parts. So is the bronze shifter linkage connector. Really want to firm up everything. These are the type of things you can get. We've got the poly shifter support rod bushings right here, and they give you instructions on each of the packets on how to install these. Again, I opted to do everything when I purchased this. Whenever I order something, I always look for how it's packaged, and everything here was packaged super well. Everything is labeled. I like how they even put the instructions on each of the parts, and they even give you tools to go with it. So they got custom machine crow's feet in case you don't have a crow's foot set. These are both going to be super helpful. And then again, everything here, when you look at this, they really took their time to make sure nothing gets damaged. They're protecting the threads. There's tons of options when you order these. I've got mine set up to accept an aftermarket shift ball, but you can also order this portion to accept the stock shift knob as well if you want to go that route. Picked up this car and it's barely drivable right now. We're getting it back together, but one of the things we wanted to address was this. It's hard to get into gear. Driving it home was almost impossible to get it into first gear. Going into reverse was tough. And I think this is like an aftermarket Hurst handle, but this would apply if you had a worn out stock shifter as well. It just doesn't inspire confidence. It makes it hard to drive. We're gonna rip this out. Now this is up to you, but I would highly recommend removing the exhaust before trying to tackle this job. So this car being used has had its muffler deleted. So all you gotta do after undoing everything in the front, you also undo that little brace you see right there that was sliding across. And then in my case, there's just two hangers. So I pulled one apart. We'll come over here, we'll yank this one off, and then hopefully the whole thing should just drop down. Now I did all of this without a helper, but it wouldn't hurt to have an extra set of hands just because the exhaust is a little unwieldy. Okay, now that the car is safely in the air and hopefully you have access to get to everything you need to underneath, it's time to address the inside of the car. And just twist it. Oh, look, it's just gonna come straight off. So, boom. Set this aside. Next, you're gonna have to remove this piece right here. You'll notice mine is already kind of loose, and that's because unfortunately somebody did this incorrectly before and broke off the two tabs in the back. There are two tabs on this piece that point this way that hook back up under here. If you just go ahead and rip this thing off, you could break them. So you have to take your time and make sure you clear that to get this off. And this is coming forward and up carefully, and then this piece is coming off. Remove this sound deadening foam, which again I believe is going to be reused. Wow, they weren't kidding around with that foam. Okay, set that aside. When I show you this, it might be slightly different than a bone stock CTS V, but it's going to be close enough that you get the idea. Underneath the car, you can see why I pulled the exhaust out. You have way more room to access. The next thing you want to do is get a 13mm wrench right here and an Allen on the other side, and we are going to undo that and slide that out of the way. Once you've got that loosened, you are going to go ahead and save this hardware. So don't lose these two. We are out and disconnected. Normally, these should be rivets. It appears that, again, my car with 140,000 miles and some questionable maintenance done to it, these have been replaced. But normally this and this need to be drilled out, and you don't need to drill all the way through. You just need to drill the head of the rivet off enough that you can pop the top of it out. For us, since ours is a little different, we're going to go ahead and try and just break these loose with an impact and hope we can pop them out from the top. So for me, these are 11mm. Again, for you, they're probably going to be rivets, but if you've got something like me, go ahead and remove these. Moving up top, there are 4 perimeter nuts to remove and 2 bolts. Start with the nuts. Now be careful, you don't want to drop these. So I'm switching over to by hand now, and I'll set them into the tray of the center console. it's going to be tempting to go and grab your impact. However, I would recommend grab yourself a small ratchet. I've got a 1/4-inch drive with a couple extensions and a 10mm socket. Go ahead and remove the bottom 2 nuts and then the middle 2 bolts. I found the easiest way to get to the top 2 nuts was with a ratcheting wrench. It's kind of a tight fit in there, so just take your time. Although not applicable if your car didn't have a previous aftermarket shifter in it, now's probably a good time to remove this stalk. Again, if you don't have this, I wouldn't worry about this step. Something that my car has is this little electrical connector. And if I try and lift this up and out, I basically hit the top of this electrical connector up here. So I'm gonna try and remove this, pushing in on this, and then I'm gonna lift up on this, and I think that'll pop loose. Is loose, but it's still kind of in our way. So I'm going to try and wiggle it forward carefully. I don't undo it, push it forward. Don't undo anything, and that should allow enough room for this to pop off. And then this comes out. Now we're looking down at the shifter itself. You can just grab this and pull it out. And that puppy was pretty shot. Gasket of some sort as well. Also pretty shot. There's supposed to be a boot, and you can see it's all torn up there on the ground. Something that they want you to reuse. You may have to buy a new one of those if yours is as beat up as mine. This piece right here, these are bushings. So these are actually going to come out and get replaced by the Creative Steel ones. And as you can see, that's probably a main reason why this thing was shifting so sloppy, is that these are just completely destroyed. So always fun to do a comparison. These are what came out of the car, and that is what's going in. You can tell why we had shifting problems. So just like the other ones, these are pre-cut so they can slide onto the shaft. They recommend greasing these a little bit, so we're just going to use some light lithium grease, just a tiny bit, and then we'll spread this around. I'll try and spread it around on the inside too. Now from underneath the car, I found it was easiest to install those bushings. They just slide into place. And once you install both sides, you'll take that little metal piece you see there at the top of the frame and slide it over the bushing. Don't worry about it being exact, you'll adjust it later. Try and clean up a lot of this grease because it's super nasty in there, but they are in and everything is slid back into place. It's a great fit. Okay, we spray a little degreaser on there. We're going to try and clean up these surfaces a little bit. The next step is going to be to grab your shifter, and basically this is going to drop into the car, and you're going to tighten these from the bottom. They say don't go too hard. We're going to go like 15 foot-pounds on these bad boys. They're nylock nuts, they shouldn't back loose, and they're captured up top so they shouldn't spin, which is great. Okay, go ahead and pop these off, but don't lose them. I'm going to drop this down in here. We're gonna have to remove, it looks like, this little zip tie because it won't go through the hole with it, so let's cut that off. Drop this down in here, place, boom, just like so. We'll hop underneath the car and we'll go ahead and tighten these up. So there we go, we got this one. Now we'll go ahead and get this other one here. And we're gonna tighten these to 15 foot-pounds with a torque wrench. The instructions recommend 15 to 20 foot-pounds. I went with 15 foot-pounds. I'm letting the nylock do the work. The next step is check for any burrs. If there are any, you'll want to take a file because this is what's riding over that sleeve. Mine feels pretty good. The next part is to slide this up over, and then I'm just going to let it rest here for a second because I'm going to go grab my bolt and make sure this is cleaned off so I can apply a little bit of Loctite. A little of this, arguably too much. Got the bolt in. Put the nut on. I want to crimp it. We just want to get it snug. And we're relying on the Loctite basically to do the work for us because we don't want to go so tight that we smash this into the sleeve. Next step is to take your now clean boot, and we've got to slide it back and get it over each of those 4 studs. Since we know this is fixed and the other part moves, I'm probably just going to go ahead and just run these down finger tight, the 4 perimeter screws, and adjust from the bottom to ensure we can get our 2 bolts to go down through here and pick up the bottom part of the shifter. I started just putting these on finger tight. I didn't want to drop anything down into no man's land, as they say. So from underneath, all I'm doing is I'm sliding this whole assembly on both sides, forward or back, so I can line up those bolt holes so that I can screw it in from the top. Okay, now that I've got those pretty lined up, we're just going to gently snug everything up. If you want to torque them, 84 inch-pounds. Got a crow's foot to a swivel. It's one way to do it. If your vehicle has the electrical connector, make sure you snap it back down in place. And now we're ready to adjust the shifter because all 4 plus 2, all 6 of the bolts are hooked up. Okay, now's the fun part where you get to make adjustments. So for me, I felt like the short throw that it comes with, the 15%, is perfect. So there's 2 jam nuts here. The bottom jam nut I'm going to tighten up, and we're going to call that good. Then we're going to adjust the height, which I've kind of already done, but I'll show you how to do it. And then we'll lock that down. And then basically it's just reinstalling the foam and putting everything back together on top. Okay, now that I've locked that bottom one down, I'm trying to push this boot out of the way here. Go ahead and take your shifter and just start threading it down on there. And don't worry if your shifter doesn't line up when you go to tighten it, because you can address that later. For me, that's really comfortable. You could run it down even further if you'd like, but this just feels good. Kind of hits right in the center of the palm of my hand. The throws are nice and short. Oh, the 2 to 3 is just fantastic. You just, man, thing is awesome. So now we'll go ahead and lock this top lock nut up against there. Crow's foot in there. Now this top one, you're backing it off to lock it in place. So we'll tighten it down. I'll set down the wrench and just hold this so it can't move. We want that nice and snug. I'm going to take the boot and pull it up. Now we've got that boot pulled up tight. We'll make sure everything still shifts fine, which it does. Cutters of choice. Take this off. I'm going to be getting a different shift ball for this one that doesn't say Hurst on it probably. But for now, this is all I have. So we'll take this, and this is going to go back into place. Okay, go ahead and stuff this guy back down in here. We've got this like assorted Harbor Freight grommet set, and look, it fits in there pretty good. It's like perfect. Heck, it even holds this thing down a little better than it used to. Go ahead and thread this on here. I've been driving this for a few days and it is absolutely awesome. Now I did have to put some tape around here. That's just because my bezel's broken. You won't have to do this, but it just feels great. Highly recommend picking up one of these. It looks cool, it fits well, it's easy to install. You're gonna love it, whether you got a stock shifter or even if you have an aftermarket Hurst like mine, rip that thing out of there, put in one from Creative Steel. You will not be disappointed.